You know the Churchill War Rooms?
No?
So the Churchill War Rooms are a museum.
I'm familiar with the Churchill War Rooms, but I don't know what
So basically, it was obviously the nerve centre from where Churchill and his team ran the war, effectively, the Second World War.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. It's well preserved, and you can go down there and you can look around. It's good.
Smells of cigars, I bet. It absolutely fucking reeks. Yellow.
It was cigars. It was cigars. Basically, what you find out is that Churchill loved a cigar, as everyone already knows.
Loved to drink. Loved
he was basically permanently pissed. Right? And
let the man sleep.
He didn't sleep very much, and he was just. And also, by the way, it goes understated, I think, like how old he was in the Second World War.
Right. Was he absolutely ancient, or was he younger? And he just looked older because he'd just drinking port all day.
I think he's like in his mid to late 60s.
Oh right, okay.
In the key parts of the Second World War.
Yeah.
So, like, anyway, he's pissed. Right, and he's galloping around the church at the Cabinet War Rooms underground in a massive pink romper suit.
He's not
just
running
telling,
around
just telling people what to do, sticking stickers on things. Right. Anyway, if you haven't got a chance to go to the Churchill War Rooms, that's a general flavour.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's also some chat now about how that Churchill perhaps wasn't the best guy in the world, and he said some stuff that was a bit problematic. All that kind of usual conversation that happens these days.
It's the David Jason issue, isn't it? Like,
a little bit more important.
Wait. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the Only Fools and Horses is quite offensive. That's what I mean by that.
So Churchill said some stuff. He did some stuff that these days people wouldn't appreciate. Right? Fine.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would say is, and I thought this at the time when I went there, if you don't like that, you're going to hate the other fella. I'll tell you what,
got news for you, buddy.
Yeah, if you're offended by that, fair enough. But the other geezer, he wasn't any better. In fact, he was markedly worse. Anyway, the point being, the original point is that when the Cabinet War Rooms was no longer needed, i.e., the war ended.
Yeah.
Churchill leaves power as Prime Minister, I think, just before Japan surrender in August of 1945. The map room, the nerve centre, all the stuff, all the tech, it's not needed, right?
Yeah.
But because they were focused on just rebuilding London and getting on with peace and everything, so the last person out literally just turned the lights off, locked it up, and that was that.
Right.
And it didn't get opened again until like 1980.
Oh, they didn't sort of think to okay.
So to the point where when they went back down there, like sugar was rationed in the Second World War, right? They were opening like drawers of like prominent Air Force officers and stuff that were based down there.
Yeah.
Open the drawers and there's like little sugar cubes still in there. People's rationing still left there.
Yeah.
Like, and so they've kept it as much as as preserved as they could as to what it would have been like.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I know what I'm like after a party. I don't want to deal with the recycling. So, you imagine how many clinky bottles were down there.
Well, my neighbour does it at like 3 a.m.
Does he? Oh, is that how you know? Because you're up and about. Lovely.
It's just like
clinking. Stop the clinking, guys.
It's like the universe decides that the exact second after my son will fall asleep, someone does the recycling at any time of the day.
You've got quite a nice quiet road as well for that area. Like, I'm surprised that it's...
Yeah, the front two rooms. Do you know what it is, mate? It's it's annoying middle class people recycling, and it's Deliveroo drivers, baby.
Right, okay.
Revving their little putt-putts.
Revving their little putt-putts. They are very shrill, those little putt-putts, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's surprising because at that time in the morning it is very quiet, so any noise at all just sounds mad. So that is, and also this time of the year you got the windows open, so it's a tricky situation.
Yeah,
but yeah, what are you gonna do? And also the other thing about Churchill during that time was that, like, what he was regularly doing was he was telling everyone he was going to bed and he was going into his room, and then he was getting a couple of his like most trusted staff and just fucking off again. And climbing up to the top of like Down Street and standing on the roof watching the bombs come down and stuff. So they say in that Churchill War Rooms thing, which is a tourist attraction now and it's very well worth visiting, they say he only slept in his bed 3 times. He was just cutting about doing other shit.
Just doing other stuff.
He's basically a maniac. Like, he's basically a maniac who won.
Yeah, and also I guess you would think that, is it just our technological... I mean, there's a million reasons, and the war is obviously a massive thing, but, like, was he massively advantaged by stuff like technology. Like, you know, we just had a lot of good engines and stuff.
I think people all the kind of accounts are like he was an amazingly charismatic and inspirational leader, and in that period of time when
We're
the
all
UK
good on a couple of pints, though, aren't we? We're all good on a couple
listen,
of pints.
it ain't a couple of pints. Let me tell you that. It's basically they even put it in there. They put in there the routine. It's like wake up, champagne. Brandy after lunch, champagne, whiskey, champagne, brandy after dinner.
And he never
port,
got offered
whiskey.
a talk sport role. He never.
No,
he never got the breakfast.
No, he was
show.
doing some of the he was doing some BBC stuff. To be fair, wasn't he?
I swear.
Did do some BBC,
fair.
and which I've got, which brings me on to another story that I heard from a friend of mine this week. That I'm not going to name them because they didn't give me permission to tell this story, but I'm sure you'll be able to work it out. They were doing a show on an evening for the BBC way back in the day, like 20, 30 years ago. And at one point, they didn't have a studio for them. And so they said, we'll put you in this studio. And it wasn't a regular studio. And he's like, okay. And they went into Broadcasting House, as it was then. Broadcasting House is the one that they've kind of closed down now with put flats there, right?
Yeah.
Which is a fucking extraordinary act of cultural vandalism if ever I've heard one.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking hell.
I mean,
outrageous.
how old was that building though? Realistically, I mean, it's iconic, but it's only iconic because they showed it all the time. I mean, they make probably just as much
but the
use
King's
out of...
speech, the King's speech is from there. The Churchill addresses to the public after the war.
Rent that Airbnb.
It doesn't need to be old to be important, Peter. And speaking to someone who is old and unimportant, so basically, they go to the BBC Broadcasting House, and instead of going to a regular studio, they go like 5 stories down in a lift, and they come to a room with like a submarine door in it, and they go in there and they record in there, and it's a bunker studio.
Right. Yeah.
And Churchill used to broadcast from there.
Wow.
And the back side of the studio is another door straight to a tube platform.
Oh, cool.
That takes him back to wherever he goes.
Nice.
And up until fairly recently, that was still a working, broadcastable, usable studio, and Churchill would either record his addresses to the British public during the war on from his house, and it would be broadcast from somewhere else, or he would do it in there. But yeah, hello.
He's the original timeline scholar. He was the original timeline scholar, always broadcasting about his drink, about his war.
So apparently, his code was he'd ask for coloured water.
Coloured water.
And it would be like whiskey with a load of water in it. And there's a video in that Churchill War Rooms of a woman who was his secretary. And she's like properly old-fashioned and posh, obviously. And she's going, and people said that Winnie used to drink an awful lot, but he didn't really. And then she just goes and lists about 400 alcoholic units. She's brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yes, and what I would say, Pete, on the kind of the efficacy of Churchill's stuff, it's generally widely accepted that he was a hugely inspirational leader, mate. It's not like there's not other reasons you just scratch around for.
I'm just saying, I just don't know how he managed to sort of do it when he was absolutely half-caught.